Hello, everybody. Welcome to Will Talks podcast. Today we have Sreejit Chakrabarty. He's the director of AI for education in GEMS Education, and he's also going to tell us a lot more about exactly what he does within his organization. Because if you are a school leader, if you are a school director, a chairman, a trustee, and if you're thinking, what does a school have to do with AI, and what is this whole hype about AI in education? I think today's conversation will help you understand how other people are working at it. Sreejit is contributing a lot on LinkedIn. You should follow his page on LinkedIn. There's so much that you can learn from him. He does podcasts. He shares a lot of small little tips and tricks. He creates documents, and there's so much we can learn from him. I'm so happy that he's with us today. And I hope that over the next one, you will get a lot of value from this conversation. Welcome, Sreejit, to Will Talks. How are you today?
I am good. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
That's brilliant. Would you like to share a little bit about where you're from and what do you do within your current place of employment?
Sure. I am originally from India, born in Calcutta, brought up in Bombay, did my education there, based in Dubai now, working for GEMS Education. Initially consulted to GEMS and now working full time with GEMS for almost 8 years in the capacity of Director of Artificial Intelligence for the flagship American school at GEMS Dubai American Academy. And from the corporate side, I am the Cluster Edu Innovation Lead, so leading the innovation initiatives across the American and the IB cluster schools at GEMS.
That's brilliant. So what's a school doing with AI? I mean, people are just about learning about what AI is. So what do you think a school can do with AI? Just help us understand. Is there a difference between the computer lab and AI? Is there a difference between robotics lab and AI and things like that? Anything to set the context.
Yeah, you hit the nail on its head. You said, what are schools doing in learning about AI? I think they should first learn about AI before talking about AI or adopting AI or making policies around AI is AI literacy. And that is something I'm championing and pushing for in my LinkedIn as well. And across my conversations with other school leaders is try to get your school leadership, your teachers and staff, and even the parents, all the stakeholders, get them AI aware first so that they know what AI is, how it actually works before they start using it or form a, kind of a notion around it. So that is the stage that most of the schools are in right now, especially in the Middle East and of course in India as well. And globally, of course, is AI literacy. That is something that is really important. And when you say what is AI in terms of how is it different from like computer lessons or coding or robotics, it's an extension. It's an extension, I would say, wherein you're making coding or programming modules, which are basically taking decisions based on how you're coding it, right? So it's not merely, when we grew up, we had only a simple code that we wrote and it had errors. We go back to the drawing board, debug it, find the errors and play it again and again until we get the output. But things have changed now. So there are different strategies that we can adopt in terms of what is the end output we require. And then we can train a program or a machine learning model around what we want it to achieve. And it's sometimes it's magic. It's pure magic. The program amazes you sometimes with all the findings it gets. So that is beautiful. But what I am more passionate about is so much data around every school. The amount of data that is generated in any school is mind-boggling. And so much of this data could be used by smart, intelligent computer systems and machine learning models to come up with some fascinating, kind of inferences and some things we sometimes we don't even think of. Right. So that's the power of AI. It's not just in the teaching and learning or in the labs of the robots. It's also within the fabric of the entire school that can be layered and a lot of changes can be made based on decisions that the AI comes up with.
This the way you say it, I think it makes me think, and I want to just step back a little bit and ask you, from my memory of schools and computers, children were taught, and I'm talking 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, maybe even now in some schools, children were taught to use a software. So, this is Microsoft Word or this is Microsoft Excel, and these are the functions of it, and you need to know. That was the computer literacy. Like, you're able to understand what are the apps, maybe use it a little bit. I noticed was when schools are teaching computers, they were not really teaching the application of it
Mm.
as much as teaching the software of it. But in AI, it appears to me, please correct me, correct my thinking or my observation, it appears that people have to be more in tune with the application of AI, more, as opposed to understanding maybe how an LLM works or what is tokenization or any of those technicalities. Any thoughts around that?
Yeah, it's a
What I
beautiful
mean by
question.
what I
Yeah,
mean by this, yeah, like we need to learn to use ChatGPT
yeah,
rather than know how maybe ChatGPT works, right?
true, absolutely. And the answer to the question is once you know how ChatGPT works, you'll be able to use ChatGPT in a manner that makes sense. So, for example, when we had the explosion of LLMs in the market, right? We had ChatGPTs and Gemini's come into the picture. The first thing that we did as a school is create these breakfast sessions, coffee mornings with parents, with students, with teachers, and just discuss about the power of LLMs. What is the future going to look like? The good, the bad, the ugly. We started discussing about them. And then in these discussions, we found out that, okay, we need more awareness into how these technologies actually work to form an opinion about it or actually be able to teach it as well. Right. So as a result of that, what has happened now is most of our students, they understand how ChatGPT works, and they also understand how confidently, how blatantly ChatGPT can give an output which is completely wrong. So now they won't use ChatGPT for doing research. They might use some other tool or Perplexity or something like that, right? So once you know how some stuff works, you know where to use it for. So I would say that, okay, first you get AI literate and then you use AI. But yeah, with the advent of generative AI and LLMs and all the bar of new software that are being launched almost on a daily basis now, the barriers to entry have become so less that everybody and anybody can start using AI immediately, right? So that where lies an issue or a problem as well. That imagine that we are in the 70s and the 80s, and everyone has a mobile phone in their hands, and everyone has a Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and start using it without knowing how actually what are the formulas of Excel, without knowing how it works. So that's where the AI literacy comes into the picture. You should know how it's able to generate that content, right? Once you know, then you know what kind of prompts you need to put to get the authentic answer.
That's wonderful because it kind of appears that with the advent of AI, LLMs and all these tools that suddenly became so easy, as you said, the barriers to entry have reduced. And it's now become so easy for pretty much anyone with the internet connection to get access to at least a free version of it. It appears that for the first time in a long time, both students, teachers, school administrators, school leaders, school directors, parents, everyone need to learn something together. It's what I mean to say is in a school, you generally have teachers who know the subject and then they have to teach children who want to learn the subject. But here, it's new for both of them, right? Have you experienced that? And have you seen that firsthand anywhere in schools across the world?
Well, I would say like when physics was being invented or created, Einstein was writing his laws, Newton was writing his laws. Imagine what was happening in the schools and the teachers, right? That's the same case happening with AI. The technology itself is at such a nascent stage right now, but it's rapidly evolving at such a pace that we cannot wait for it to evolve and then start teaching it. We have to do it on the fly. And that is what is happening. And that is what has to happen if we want to make our students AI literate, because we're going to live in a world which is like going to be overtaken by AI and drones and blockchain and all these kind of emerging technologies. So we have to get our students ready right now, because by the time they graduate from schools, they will be in a world that is, those things will be very common for them. So we have to be, I would say, like optimistic about the technologies, but cautiously optimistic. We have to put some guardrails and create policies and create strategies so that, literacy of these technologies is to be considered something that is a no-brainer. Everyone has to, as you said, all the stakeholders need to know about this technology, because it was like the internet era when the internet first came, right? You could ignore it, but then you will fall behind because everyone else is using it. So we have to make sure that at least we are aware of it. If not, be happy with it, or we have an opinion around it. But at least it's good to be aware of it and how it works, because it is definitely going to impact us, even if not in our schools, definitely in the workforce.
And, one interesting observation I had when I saw some of the teachers using AI, when I took a session and I said, I'm going to show you AI. And everyone was like super excited. They were like, wow, AI, there's so much hype around this. This must be really cool. And we have been spoiled for excellent UIs and slick softwares and colorful images and animation and everything. And when I opened ChatGPT, they were like, this is AI because it looks like a terminal window. And they're like, what is this? Where's the color? So they had quite a shock, And that to me tells me that really they need to understand more about the power of it. So do you have any thoughts on what does it look like if a teacher was using AI or a teacher was digitally, if she has AI literacy in place, okay? And I'm not even talking about advanced user, like basic user. What would it look like, a teacher using AI? What would it look like, a student using AI? What would a school that uses AI look like? What do you think they could possibly do? It's just an open sort of, what if question.
Yeah, I mean, there's a conference where, funnily, I had this similar question on the same track, and I said that we are living in a world right now where a teacher is delivering a lesson using AI tools. So the AI tool is building the lesson plans, creating the content for the lessons. The teacher is using another AI tools to probably deliver the lesson. The students are studying about that particular topic using probably some third-party AI tools. The teacher is using another AI tool to create an assessment or a rubric, and the student is using another AI tool to answer those questions, and the teacher is using another AI tool to assess those answers. So it's a never-ending loop, right? So who is actually learning? Is it the AI tool actually learning, or is it the teacher or student? So that is what happens when we have a technology which is that powerful, which impacts so many different phases of for a company, and in our case, in our education. To give that answer right now, there are innumerable number of tools that is accessible by the education community, be it teachers, students, whoever, SLTs. It all depends on identifying what makes the life of a teacher easy first, and then making sure that this particular AI tool that a teacher is using is actually helping make life easier for a teacher, not just because it's an AI tool, so I'm using AI for my teaching and learning, not just for the sake of using AI, but actually using something and measuring impact of that particular intervention, as we call it, right? So when that happens, that makes justification towards, okay, I'm using this particular AI because it is helping me grade my assessments uh, faster. It's helping me create more smart rubrics. It's helping me create differentiated assessments for my classroom. So these were things where teachers used to spend a lot of time before the advent of AI, but now probably with the help of these tools, it becomes a little bit easier, I would say. Although I would always recommend teachers to keep it completely under their control, not just blindly have 100% faith on what AI generates, because most of it could be false. But that's why, prompt engineering is something which is very, very crucial. Learning how to get the right thing out of an AI, learning how to prompt correctly, something that we are doing right now is a PLC that I'm running at GEMS is on prompt engineering and how to use AI prompting ethically. So that is something I feel it's very important now for teachers to also understand how to use the AI tools that they have access to. So that is one side of the question. Now, coming to the student side, this is where it becomes it's a gray area at the moment, because there's a lot of players involved in this. One is the EdTech companies who do not care, who are just pushing the boundaries of technology because they can, and they should. Then we have the schools who are kind of stuck in between whether we should use these technologies. Are we violating any policies? And are we still following the curriculum? All these questions come into the picture. And then you have the curriculum and the boards who are still not clear whether, okay, use of these particular tools are allowed or not allowed, how much percentage of AI can be used, how to track AI usage, is AI usage ethical, is AI generated content same as plagiarized content? All these conversations are happening right now, and which is a good thing to happen. So for the students, I would say that um, learn about how AI works, so you know where to apply AI. And if you're using AI for your learning journey, or even for your exams, make sure you're transparent about it. Let the teachers know that you're using AI. For example, sometimes we allow our students to use AI for their submissions, and we ask them that, okay, just citate your AI, what you have used, write the prompt that you use to generate that content. So maybe we can actually assess them on the basis of the prompt that you have done. Right now, we are working on multimodal assessments, wherein we can create assessments which are AI proof. So even if the student wants, they cannot use AI to answer those questions, because the question is generated in a way where you cannot use AI's help. There are different tactics that the schools can use to overcome this challenge, but we are still in that phase where there is no clear clarity. But that's the exciting phase, because we are going through a big transition right now.
That's incredible. And it just shows that it is so new and so powerful and so fast. And hence, it's almost caught everybody off guard. People are thinking about how do they really integrate this and how do they fully utilize the power of AI? Because I think people who have used generative AI know that this is incredibly powerful and there's a lot that we can achieve with it. They're probably just trying to figure out the nuts and bolts and all exactly how that should come through. And what would a school look like? Like a school using AI systems, what would that look like? Especially because I remember in the beginning of the conversation, you mentioned schools generate so much of data. And if they use that data, then things could look a lot different. What do you think like a good implementation of AI would be? Yeah, just a fun fact. I think one of the top 5 consulting companies this year made 80% of their revenue last year just consulting organizations who are trying to figure out where and how to use AI.
Yeah, I
Imagine.
mean, that is the flavor of the month. So AI anywhere means a lot of revenue potential. But the fact that is the case is because it's so impactful and it does have an impact, right? It's just about knowing. That's where you hit the nail on its head. It's about knowing how to use AI rightly to make sure you're getting the most use of AI. And generative AI is just one small part of what AI brings to the table, right? So there's a lot, as you said, uh, speaking about data, okay, let us just keep academic data on the side because, of course, that's a huge amount of data. But there are so much other data. Let's say transportation, right? Smart transportation system. There's a lot of sensor-based transportation system that we have at GEMS here and many other schools are applying, which generates a lot of data in terms of, the tardiness of the students, the tardiness of the bus, the traffic situation, uh, even going to see the amount of carbon monoxide that's being accumulated at all the bus parks. All these kind of data can give us a lot of smart, we call it smart data because it gives us a lot of predictions that we can take in creating, like staggered breakout times, times when the buses could leave, times when the students could go from the classroom to the buses. A lot of this data is coming out from churning these data and putting them into machine learning models, which is making our whole transportation system, the entire end to end from morning till the afternoon, more reliable, more consistent, and more accurate, saving us fuel cost, helping the planet, saving time. So this is it's like effect of AI, smart usage of AI, but it's not something very apparent when you talk in terms of a school, right? So you have to actually dig deeper and see where all I can use AI. This is just one example. The other example is, we have a network of CCTVs in our schools, right? There are AI apps available that sit on top of it, and it can help monitor a lot of things. For example, if there is a weapon in someone's hand, the AI can catch that and automatically send a trigger, which could save lives potentially. There are cases where students are stuck in a part of the school, so that the AI can identify that. So these are different aspects of how AI can be used in the classroom or in the school. Accounting, payroll, HR, everyone can use AI to make smart business decisions. Hiring has been like AI is in every process of hiring right now, right? From scanning of the CVs to negotiating contracts thing is kind of AI is kind of like the partner in making all those decisions right now. So, and then comes the teaching and learning side of it, right? So I would say every process that a school has to be, there's no fault in just feeding that data to AI and see what it comes up with, right? So that is something beautiful. And we have seen that it impacts our bottom line. And that is something which every school should try and do at least once.
So from what you're saying, I'm seeing that there is a value that AI will bring to the individual and his work. So let's say a professional has been hired to do a particular job. That professional, being AI literate, is now in a position to be able to do his or her job faster, better, more efficiently, and more effectively. That is one aspect. The other aspect is the organization as a whole is able to generate far more value and do things, reduce wage, reduce inefficiencies, become more effective, become more responsive to things, become faster, turnaround times change. And I think these are two fundamental differences that I've been able to pick up from what you're saying. And what I'm also saying is that principals and school leaders should not think about AI as a device or as a hardware or as a room inside your school. You can't say, this is an AI product, let me just send it to my computer teacher. because the computer teacher may not be looking at hiring, right? Or a computer teacher may not be looking at parent service. So the computer teacher may not have that understanding of the actual business process where AI is going to make a difference. So I think my understanding and request to school principals and directors is to take active interest, right, in any AI tool or any AI software that comes to you, and realize that AI is not a thing that we need to teach our kids. It is going to be an ongoing process. It's going to be almost a way of thinking where children, or rather where people, humans and technology can integrate in a more effective and efficient manner. I think that is something that is coming to my mind. Any thoughts
Absolutely.
around that?
That is so true, and that's exactly what we try to do here. When our biggest partner here in the Middle East is Microsoft for GEMS Education, and we are rolling out Copilot as something that we see every student, teacher, and everyone part of our community using, thanks to our partnership with Microsoft, and it's now slowly kind of ingrained into everything, every app, and every process that we have. So the first thing that we did was do a test study of Copilot with our innovation leads across the GEMS group. And the second thing we did was create a training session for the principals of the schools to be familiar and be literate on Copilot and how it impacts their day-to-day kind of operations. So I think leadership is very important. The buy-in from the leadership for any kind of radical, technology or any kind of change is very important, because at the end of the day, it's them who are going to do those big budgetary decisions. And with AI, it's not escaping. You cannot escape or just say that, okay, we'll look at it later on. It's something that is, you will be late to the bus. You cannot ignore AI right now. So you have to, as a school leader, or even if you're not into an academic team, it's very important for you to understand how AI is having an impact in all processes that it is part of. So AI literacy for school leaders is something which is very important.
And that puts a follow-up question in my mind, because for any principal who's out there who's trying to understand, I want to train my teachers in AI, what should I train them in? Is there, from your experience and from your understanding in this particular subject, what do you think, if a school, I mean, time is of the essence. If a principal feels like she has only 5 hours or 6 hours or 8 hours to train teachers, something about AI, what do you think the principal needs to cover to make sure that teachers are in a slightly more comfortable position to use AI?
Yeah, so I've done a few AI workshops for the past for 3 to 4 years, and what has emerged as a pattern that I'm seeing from what the teachers actually appreciate and need and are really thankful for is first to talk about the ethics part of it. So they need to be aware about or discuss about the ethics of AI, address the big elephant in the room is that, okay, should I use ChatGPT in my classroom or not? So that is something very important, right? And then to understand what generative AI is very important. And what are the different types of generative AI, right? And once they understand that, they start experimenting with the tools that are in front of them. So maybe you say if you have 5 hours, which is a long time for a PD session, you can easily break it down into like discussing about AI ethics first, then working on generative AI, because that's the AI tool which most of the teachers are going to use, experimenting and coming up with content that they would use in their classroom, which are in the next couple of weeks. That is an activity they could do, and then start comparing and contrasting as to which AI tool does better. There is no one right answer that this AI tool is the go-to AI tool. It's still evolving. A ChatGPT 6 months back is very different from ChatGPT now as well. So it doesn't matter which tool you're targeting. It's about how to use that tool. So AI prompting is something which is very important. They need to understand what is the scientific approach. And when they understand how a LLM works, they understand how to write the prompt as well. And finally is just examples and giving them best practices of how other schools are using and incorporating AI into their practice. So that gives them more ideas, and creating a community is something which is very important. Connecting teachers who are using AI with other teachers who want to learn how to use AI, and making that platform is something I think very powerful. And I think, yeah, then that is a good, starting point for teachers to start talking about AI. As long as teachers feel that it is going to help them and impact their practice in a positive way, they are happy to do it. Once they start feeling that it is something extra that they have to do apart from the covering the curriculum, which they don't even have enough time to do, then it starts becoming a burden, right? So we have to make sure that teachers understand that this is something which is actually going to help them and their students make probably their content, their teaching and learning experience a lot better in specific guardrails. You have to respect the guardrails. You have to respect the rules that a school would have based on the policies. So yeah, I would say that. And again, coming to policies is something which is probably very important for a school to start working on is create a policy around ethical use of AI.
I feel like over the past maybe 10 years, most of the companies that were selling to schools had products such as textbooks or curriculum books. Some companies even had digital videos, small digital videos, cartoons, animations to explain concept, explain whatever concepts that came up. I also think a lot of e-learning companies came into existence, I think, in the past 10 years, because as more and more schools started investing in the uh, smart boards or computers, internet, more and more companies started deciding that it's time to sell them content, because initially, I think most of these boards were preloaded or they had some sort of content deals. Most of those content deals started expiring, 5 years after they purchased it. But the life of these products have been much more than 5 years. And so schools have gone out and started buying content and things like that. With the advent of AI, generative AI, especially in making lesson plans, making presentations, making videos, which I wanted to talk to you about as well, do you feel that there's going to be a tremendous amount of pressure on these companies who literally had this one product or two products? Do you think there's going to be a lot of pressure for them to go back and really innovate and see? Do you think that generative AI in education has probably even the potential to wipe out some of these companies and make them irrelevant?
Yes, this is one case where I feel very strongly that that is probably going to happen. Now, it is not going to happen right now because we are dependent on LLMs, which have data which is scraped through millions and millions of sources, right? But when every school starts preparing and creating their own data and use their own data to train their own models, which is essentially a small language model, that is going to be more powerful because then the AI starts generating content which is more nuanced, which is more particular to that particular school, which is not just generalized piece of content. Once that starts to happen, which is right now happening with many schools where they are using custom GPTs or they're using some agents to create pieces of content for them, I think that is very powerful as well. Because the part where it is more important and in more focus and something which we need to be really mindful of is when a third party company or an edtech company creates content for you, right? Who is actually making the content? Maybe some PhD scholar professor they have hired and they're making the content, right? But is that actual content going to be used in your classroom? Because that particular person does not know your students. You know your students. You know what works for that particular child. So are you going to use the same generic content for all the students? No. With the help of AI now, you can personalize every piece of content that is delivered from the teacher to the student and even for them to figure out on their own. So that is where I think the power of AI and generative AI is going to be in the picture when every school has their own database of data, which is being used to train their own specific LLM and which is going to happen in the next couple of years, I'm sure, at the rate at which the technology is rampantly rising. So that is where I feel edtech companies have to focus more on how they're delivering the ed part of it. They're always focusing on the tech and keeping the ed on the side. So that's where it comes out. Okay, now you have to create content with the school. The school has to be your partner in creating the content rather than just selling textbooks or preloaded content to the schools. That is probably a model that's going to be extinct very soon. And we are entering the creator economy as well, Wilbert. So I feel students and teachers need to create their own content and publish it and share it. I mean, we are teaching students how to create their own podcasts. We are teaching teachers how to use, create bite-sized content for their teaching and learning. So that's the world we are living in right now, where students, teachers, they all are consuming content on their phones. So why not leverage that and create pieces of content which they are anyways consuming? So I think that is the next big thing that's going to happen.
I think what you said about creatorship and about entering the creator economy, I think that is really, really powerful. When I look back 10 years ago, at least in India, I've seen that so much of decision making in terms of what new product to buy, what new textbook to buy, what technology to invest in, what software to purchase. A lot of these decisions came, or rather were taken at the top, at the board level, and then it percolated down in through the system, right? Through the mid-level management, and eventually it came down to the teachers. From what you're saying, it suddenly feels like so much more power is now available at the hands of this teacher. And if a teacher wants to change the status quo within a school, if she wants to challenge the status quo, if she wants to create content that is for her own children, which personalizes it to each child in that classroom and ensures that she is able to reach every child with content that the child wants so that she can teach those children, suddenly it appears that the innovation could be driven by the teacher inside a classroom. And now she doesn't have to wait for the principal or the board or higher ups to be able to start taking that call. So in that sense, I think it's so liberating for a teacher. It's almost like now she doesn't have to wait for permission as long as it's within. And I think that's where the power of the guardrails, the knowledge of the ethics and the AI guidelines and things like that will come into place, because suddenly, since we are setting up these boundaries, we are able to allow teachers to play within those boundaries and then do. So I think that would become extremely powerful. Good teachers will become great, is what I feel. And that to me kind of feels like we'll be back into this era of teaching as leadership, where teachers genuinely lead the instructional vision of the school, and using technology, she is able to then even create the content. And it's going to be a hard place for EdTech companies with not so great or run-of-the-mill products to come and sell to us maybe 3 years later, right? When the AI literacy is higher up, I think then EdTech companies will have to really go back to their drawing board and really come up with something exciting. And from what you're saying, it appears that every school or every organization will come up with their own AI. From the way you're saying it, we may use a small language model, but start developing that as a personal AI for one particular organization that serves the needs of this organization and almost allows the organization to be able to see things that probably it won't be able to see, right? I mean, I think that's the thing.
I think
Wow, it's
we've all seen that debate between equity and equality, right, in education in the classroom. So I think this is where we are able to achieve equity, and AI is able to help us do that. And which has always been a problem in traditional classrooms is differentiated learning and all this kind of stuff. So now with the power of AI, where we are able to do that on the fly very quickly, sometimes even free of cost. So that is very, very liberating. That is very powerful, as you said. And for teachers to adopt that, and I do not see any teacher who sees something like this as something which is not being impactful to their practice. So I believe it's just adopting it with open arms and trying it out at least first before having those kind of biases towards this without even trying them. So I think we are in that phase right now where you cannot just sell anything to teachers. They know what you're selling. So they can probably create something better than what you have already as an EdTech company.
Yeah, I think teachers today will, not only teachers, even students will tell you straight away what they feel. Today. They're so confident today, and they have a view and an opinion on so many things. I was just wondering if I can pick your brain on, if I had to come up with an AI ethics or an AI guidelines policy, or if I had to do something like that for a school, what are the few things that I need to think about as we go about even thinking of crafting something like that? Would you have any tips for somebody who may be thinking about it? Do we have to write things like what software to use, like use ChatGPT for this or Perplexity for that or Gemini for this? Or you think it's something larger than that, like to use or not to use? Something
I think it has to be larger than that, because if you write specific name of tools, your document will become very outdated very fast, because the landscape itself is evolving and tools themselves are evolving right now. So I think it has to be from a bird's eye perspective as to what are we really actually policing, right? What do we actually need to keep in mind in terms of creating this policy? And you will find that it will overlap a lot of the other policies that we already have. The biggest one being the academic
assessment policy,
the academic integrity policy, our fair use of tech resources policy, internet policy, all these kind of stuff. It is a short-term kind of a activity or an exercise that schools have to do right now, because of course the the technology is new. But very soon, the schools are going to be very successful in implementing AI if they do not have an AI policy anymore. It's just like the advent of internet. When internet first came, every school was, we need to have an internet policy. We need to have, there is questionable content on the internet. We need to create a policy around it and fair use and all these kind of stuff. But now no schools have an internet policy. It is a given that internet is used right now. So that's going to be the same thing with AI. An AI policy today is going to filter out and find itself in the other policies across the school, right? So there won't be a specific AI policy because it is going to impact all the other policies anyways. So it makes sense to make an AI policy now and make sure how to successfully phase it out so that other policies are become stronger and it incorporates AI as part of them anyways.
This is beautiful because from what I'm understanding is that then we're not making AI the center of everything. We are now going to make the student or the learning or the objective of the organization as the center of everything. And then we're going to be able to integrate AI into it. Initially, I think the policy is required because people don't know what to do.
Right.
Or don't know how to use it at all. So we probably are using that as a method to train and to build competency. And once that comes through within the culture of the school, we go back to reinforcing what is it that we're really trying to do. I love what you're saying because that would be such a nice way for us to be okay with a time when maybe we don't have an AI policy. But having one and then phasing it out over time is also part of that growth and that evolution, which I've actually never heard anyone say that. Taught me something incredibly new. Do you think AI can help, let's say, schools build content? And I don't mean lesson plan. I mean learning content. I saw on your LinkedIn you were sharing some strategies, a workflow, something to do with Sora and things. Would you like to unpack that and say if a school wants to build some social media content, maybe video, maybe short form video content, could they do it? If a teacher wanted to create a little animation video or a little avatar-based video on a lesson, maybe about covalence bonds or something like that. Is that possible, or does she still, in today's time, need to depend upon cameraman and light and sound and editor and things like that? Would you like to share if you like?
Yes, that's going to happen very soon. And I know companies who are working on it. They're still in stealth. They're not out there. But once those companies come out of stealth, it's going to be a revolution. And it's not just a face in front of a camera talking, which is very easy to create even now, but it's actually creating content based on the context of what that particular lesson is, including animations, B-roll footage, and even commentary and voice and whatnot, right? So that is the power of multimodal AI, multiple AI agents working together to create one piece of content. In terms of should schools use it right now, I would say they don't need to because the technology itself is not that easy that you can just press a button or write a prompt and generate a 30-second video. I mean, yes, you can create a 5-second video, but that's not going to solve any problem right now. So we have to just give it some more time for that technology to be even better. It's about selecting the technology then, right? If that particular tool is trained and is probably okay to be used in an educational setting, because these particular LLMs, these particular generative AI models are so powerful and they can be trained as well to create any sort of content, right? So we need an education specific tool that can only create content which is relevant to a classroom and not create anything else. So that is something that the schools need to look at, number one. Number two is training their staff into using those content creating engines in a proper way. That is number two. And third is deciding when to use them and when not to use them, because over relying on any technology is not good, right? That is something that will make, you'll still be a teacher, but then you won't get that fulfillment of teaching when you just create a video with AI and that AI is doing that part for you, right? It's a good tool to complement and supplement your lessons, but then I still feel that in-person teaching takes precedence over any AI tool that is being used in the classroom. Yeah, but explaining concepts is something which can be done very easily. What will be even more powerful in the future is an AI tool generating interactive videos. So yeah, the powerful thing is going to happen when we are going to use AI to create interactive videos, not just static videos, where students have the power to interact with the elements within the video. So you can create simulations, you can create games, You can create science experiments, physics experiments, so on and so forth. Wherein the companies are already working on these technologies right now. We are already having a text-based generative AI game development, and that is going to be really powerful because then what will happen is not only teaching concepts has always been a key, right? So how do you teach a concept to a student? First is just by explaining it. Secondly, by watching YouTube videos. Third, go out of the classroom and see something in live, in person, in action to understand how that concept works. But now, if you can create that exact simulation, what you need, which is not available on Google or YouTube, for example, that is going to be powerful in a science lesson, for example. And so that is the power of generative AI, and I feel that is coming up very soon. And once that happens, classrooms that we see right now is going to transform.
Wow. And here's going to be like a difficult question for both of us, and certainly a very difficult question for most principals in schools. School principals are so used to working on a budget, and so they feel like AI tools need to be free. At least that's the experience that I have had. Every time I've tried to introduce a school principal or a teacher to some AI tools, the first question is like, is it free? Oh, why is it not free? And I think people just, out of sheer innocence, they just don't know the amount of
Yeah.
hardware resources that something like that requires, and it's so expensive. So if a school is seriously thinking about using AI, integrating AI inside their processes, what's the kind of budget you think that they may have to at least begin to keep? And and I don't know if you can, but would you be happy listing out a few names of tools that would be like the first steps for schools to start beginning? And do they need to get accounts for each teacher, or any thoughts on that? Because I've been also thinking about that, and I've been trying to figure out, because the costs are the same in the US and in India.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah.
that's such a, yeah, what may not be very expensive in the US might end up becoming really expensive
Yeah.
in India. So is there anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, one thing we need to appreciate is AI is expensive, right? When you ask ChatGPT a question and it gives you an answer, you're spending money. ChatGPT, OpenAI is spending money right now to get that answer to you. So every interaction that we have with AI is costing money. Now, someone needs to fund that. The reason leaderships are asking the question that, okay, can we get AI for free? Can we get, what are the free tools available? That question would probably not be relevant in the next couple of years to 3 years down the line, because it's going to be like internet. Every school need to have AI. You cannot have a school without electricity. So that won't be even a concern. That is already part of the budget. So every school will have their own AI budget by default when they're budgeting for the entire year. So that is going to happen very soon once schools see the impact that AI is having. Secondly, in terms of what tools to use, well, firstly, I would say every app that schools are using right now are almost infused with AI right now. I don't see any app, a teaching and learning app right now, which doesn't have an AI element. So the first thing they could do is just subscribe to the AI part of the apps that they're already using. That's not going to be as expensive as getting subscriptions for a new tool. In terms of generating content and generative AI, that is something they need to be careful about, because they have to, it depends on where the location of the school is. What are the policies of fair use of AI in that particular geographical locations? What are the, laws of that particular place? Also, we have to, take into consideration most of the generative AI tools are eligible or kind of advised to be used by 13 plus students, right? So that is something we need to be careful of. So not making sure that it's acceptable by anyone who is below 13, and also giving, that particular training. So I think schools need to spend on training how to use AI first than securing a lot of AI apps. Canva, there are so many apps. Diffits, there are, depending on what kind of solution you're looking at, there's a bunch of apps available online. And I won't say that this app is better or that is better. Everyone has their own pros and cons. It just depends. To start using AI to feel comfortable using AI. And if it actually makes sense, it is actually giving you benefit, it's actually making a difference in the teaching and learning in the classroom, then we have that conversation, okay, which AI tool is good, which is not good, right? So first is just make sure that you use AI features of the apps that you are anyway using in your school, right? Subscribe to those add-ons, start using AI. And second thing is to be mindful of that, okay, AI is not for everyone. So be careful of when you're using AI. be careful of what data you're giving to the AI. That is very important because of the data loss. In the UK, we have GDPR. In India, we have data protection laws. AI can also have a lot of biases and so we have to be careful of that. So once we know the pros and cons of every AI tool, then we'll take a educated guess as to, okay, this is particularly the AI tool that I want to go. And it is a very personal decision for each school. There is no one blanket AI tool that every school can use. It's up to that particular school as to what are their priorities and where they are
I think
located.
the big takeaway here is right now you got to think of investing in training for AI and building the awareness and the literacy and the understanding of AI so that they'll be in a better position to evaluate what tools they need given the context of their schools. I think that is very, very helpful. I think at least in India, many schools feel like let's just get the tool and we'll just learn it on our own, which is also a great way. But investing in a little bit of training can go a long way, I think, in making sure
It's a
that.
good way to learn something, but probably not the best way to learn AI, because the fact that it can give you an output even if you give a wrong input, which is not the case with any other technology.
And it could make the output look good.
Look good. So you assume that you know how to use the AI and you are trusting the output that it is giving you, right? So that is where AI literacy understanding is key to the entire ecosystem of, like, okay, adoption of AI or adoption of technology. It has to start with AI literacy.
Brilliant. Is there anything else that you'd like to include in our conversation today? Would you like to share anything that I may not have touched upon and you feel that it is important for school leaders or students to know of? Then I'd love for you to share.
No, I think we have touched upon almost everything there is, but of course, there's a lot more that can be discussed. But I think for school leaders right now, if there are any school leaders listening right now, is to keep an open mind and see how other schools are utilizing AI. I'm based out of Dubai American Academy. We have a center of excellence that we have created on AI. We are the world's first K-12 school to have a dedicated center of excellence where we are teaching subjects like introduction to AI with self-driving cars, with virtual reality headsets, with industrial robotic arms, and teaching concepts like IoT and brain scanning technology, EEGs, and all this kind of stuff. Because we want to bridge that gap that exists right now between the skill sets that the students get from a K-12 system to an university systems, and even the gap that exists between university graduates and the workforce, because every company you join, they have to spend 6 months in retraining you. So why not remove that element and have the student access to those technologies right from high school itself? And we also promote the fact that, okay, if you as a student are not interested in learning coding, that is fine. Maybe you want to become a singer, maybe you want to become a cook, you don't want to become a technologist, that is completely fine. But then understand how AI works, because it is going to impact your domain very soon, if not already. Right. So that's why we have different tracks in our AI course, wherein one is the technical track with the machine learning and one is the non-technical track with the AI ethics. So that's where students can understand how actually AI is being used by different industries: medicine, healthcare, hospitality, food industry. So that is very important. That is very powerful, is to adopt that mindset that, okay, at least we need to be aware of these emerging technologies. And AI is just one of the technologies that is going to have a huge impact. The other one is going to be quantum computing, which is going to put this AI on steroids, which is coming very soon. And with quantum computing, the power that AI possesses right now is going to, exponentially increase. So, I mean, I can't even imagine what AI is going to be in the next 10 to 15 years, especially after Microsoft releasing their quantum chip, which is like, I can hold it in my hand. That is going to be really, really powerful. And I'm so excited to see how that's going to look like in the next 6 months, the entire landscape, how it's going to change.
What a brilliant conversation we had, Sreejit. A lot of things for me to think about, a lot of things for principals just to mull over. They certainly understand that there is no escaping AI, and the sooner they're able to understand it, get a grip of it, and bring it into their classrooms and empower their teachers and students with this technology, the more service that they will be giving their own students. Love to hear the stories that you had with GEMS Education. It looks like they're at the cutting edge of technology and making sure that kids are receiving the advantage that they really require to ensure that they are ready for the future. They're going to be able to live meaningful, purposeful, and highly successful lives. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for talking to us and sharing so beautifully and allowing us to think further
It's a
about
pleasure.
AI and
Thank you very much.
education.
Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. You'll have to